work. Her young brother was a victim of gun violence. Welcome to you both. Scottie, what was your reaction to what the president said today? What did you agree with him about?
Nothing, because it was propaganda. From the second he opened his mouth, I thought the Golden Globes were done a couple days ago, but from the second he opened his mouth to when he went over and high-fived those kids, exploited those kids.
Right, so let me just get this clear.
Was true.
You don't agree with universal background checks for gun sales?
Infringe. Back to the Bill of Rights, strict constitutional. Infringe on my rights. I think there's a certain thing to be said, but let's point this out here.
Well, hang on. How can it possibly infringe anybody's rights to have a background check for a potentially lethal firearm, given that gun owners, the people that, gun store owners, have to have them? What possible infringement of your rights is it as a member of the American society if you want to buy a gun to have a background check?
Well, here's the deal. I'm a legal gun owner, so I'm going to have it. I'm not going to object. You might find I stole an Oreo cookie in kindergarten in my background, but I'm going to be clear, and I got cleared. The criminals, though, are not going to do it. That's the key to this. If you think the criminals are going to say, hallelujah, and they're going to have a complete come-to-Jesus meeting and go get a background check, that's completely false. If the criminal...
That is about people planning to break the law, and that's down to law enforcement people to enforce the law. It's a different issue.
Well, the key is, though, that's once again, you're doing a federal mandate.
You don't agree
I really
with,
don't. I think he totally exploited the situation.
Never mind your view about his exploitation skills. Would you cap ammunition magazines to a 10-round limit?
No.
Why?
Because it doesn't say so in the Constitution. Where do you have bullet points in the Constitution?
Where does it say you can have an assault weapon that can fire 100 bullets in a minute in your Constitution?
Oh, Pierce, more importantly, where does it say I cannot?
Right. So where's the limit?
Well, there's not, because it doesn't say it. It does not say it.
There are more than 50 gun control limits already.
Because I don't agree with those. They should never have been.
So you want a tank?
You know what? When is the last time you saw a terrorist attack? Let's be real with this.
Do you want the right to have a tank? Do you believe the Second Amendment gives you, Scottie Hughes, the right to have a tank?
You know what? Honestly, I don't see bullet points in the Constitution. Sure, I don't want one. I think my mayor would be upset.
Okay, Dana Loesch, do you think that Scottie's right? Do you feel you have the right to have a tank?
That's an interesting question, Piers. I want to explain something just very briefly.
How can this be a sensible conversation?
No,
Dana, you represent a lot of people who believe what you say and trust you. How can you possibly say you want the right to a tank?
I haven't even said anything yet. You've just presupposed what my answer is going to be.
Tell me you don't want the right to a tank.
The interesting thing about the writing of our Constitution is that, Piers, our founding fathers were very specific in what was and was not mentioned in terms of the Second Amendment. Musket is not mentioned in the Second Amendment. Firearms is what's mentioned. Arms, period, is what is mentioned in the Second Amendment. And there are two reasons why we were successful in the Revolutionary War. Number one, guerrilla tactics. Number two, we had the same weapons capability as those against whom we were fighting. And I think that if you can't glean my answer from that, I think it's pretty definitive.
Your country, America, has 5,000 nuclear warheads. I'd say you're pretty covered on the threat of an overseas tyrannical regime. I come back to this question, though, because Scottie wants the right to have a tank. She says there are no limits in terms of the firearms that she can have. By your answer just now, the logical assumption from that is that you also believe there should be no limitation on firearms if a potential enemy has the same thing. So let me ask you again, Dana. Do you think you should have the right to have a tank under the Second Amendment?
I think the Constitution is clear, and it says that we have a right to bear arms under the definition of arms. We have the right to firearms. If that is how arms is defined, I'm going to let you draw your conclusions on that.
No, because I've been following this very carefully on your Twitter feed. You've been espousing yourself.
So have you started using the term, have you stopped using the term assault rifle?
Dana, I'll come to that in a moment, but you have been espousing very strongly your interpretation of the Second Amendment.
I've been quoting the Second Amendment.
Not a time to be shy. Do you believe the Second Amendment gives you, as Scottie believes, the right to have a tank?
I believe that the Second Amendment gives us all the right to bear arms. That's how I
Does that include a tank?
See it. If it falls under the definition of firearms.
You think it does?
If it falls under the definition of firearms.
Do you think it does, Dana?
If I say so, you're going to fire back and accuse me about my interpretation.
You've been interpreting it all week. I've been reading your Twitter feed. Do you think?
No, I've been quoting the Constitution. What I think is more of interest is your use of the term assault rifle.
Does your personal interpretation?
Is your use of the term assault
Dana, answer my question. Does your personal interpretation of the Second Amendment include your right to have a tank?
My personal interpretation of the Second Amendment isn't a personal interpretation. It is what it is, and it states what it states. We have the right to own firearms. We have the right to bear arms. Now, all of that which falls under the definition of firearms, that is what is guaranteed to us. If it falls under the definition of firearms, Piers.
When is the last time you heard somebody want a tank and buy a tank?
Scottie,
when is the last time
with respect, you've already said that you think it does. Dana won't answer the question. And
I have answered the question. You just don't like my answer.
Well, my question is your personal interpretation that you... Well, I think it's not funny.
No,
because
actually, ludicrous.
Because
actually, Piers, with all due respect, I find it so interesting that you're trying to nail down this definition when you can't even accurately talk about what is or is not an assault rifle or assault weapon.
But here's why it's such an important question. Because it's precisely the definition and interpretation of the Second Amendment that has got America into this horrific mess, as I see it, in terms of the right to bear arms and what those arms are. I know, but I have no problem with Americans who defend themselves in their homes with a handgun or a pistol or a shotgun. I have a major problem, as you know, with the more military-style assault weapons. Now, you say that the weapon used at Aurora and the weapon used at Sandy Hook was not an assault weapon. I ask you, what is an assault weapon if it's not a weapon that can kill 20 children in a few seconds or unload 100 bullets in a movie theatre in 90 seconds? What do you term that kind of weapon if it's not an assault weapon? And the reason I put it to you is that the last time there was an assault weapon ban, that particular weapon was included in the ban. And people got round it by modifying it, but it was included. So it was defined in 1994 as an assault weapon.
Actually, it also discussed the cosmetics that you could add on to such a weapon. First of all, let me address your initial question. There's no such thing as an assault weapon, no more than there is such a thing as an assault unicorn. And if there is one that exists, I would love to capture it. As for assault rifle, you like to use the term military-style assault rifle. I'm not quite sure what constitutes to you military-style, but I will tell you this.
Well, let me make it easier for you. Let me make it easier for you. My brother's a British Army colonel.
Okay.
And he says that from his testing...
So you're an expert?
Well, my brother is, yes. He's fought alongside American troops in Afghanistan and Iraq. He says he's only belonged, as does General McChrystal and General Colin Powell, on a military field because they perform in a military-style capability. When a young, deranged man... well, it's not funny. Stop laughing, Dana. I don't like anybody laughing in this conversation. These are fundamental... Wait, I am letting you answer. I'm telling you that in my view...
I know what the answer is.
Any rifle that can unload 90 bullets or 100 bullets in 90 seconds has to be an assault weapon.
Well, again, assault rifle, when you use the term military-style assault rifle, you do realize that you're trying to conflate the terms, and you're giving the impression that Adam Lanza and these other individuals actually owned military standard rifles. An assault rifle, if you want to use this term for the sake of argument, you're talking about either a weapon or a firearm that's capable of select fire, which I'm sure you know what that means,
I do, yeah.
Being that you're discussing it, or it's semi-automatic, automatic, or it's capable of select fire.
No, you see, I'm actually not, though. I'm actually not. I'm talking about...
Well, let me tell you, as a firearm owner, as a member of the NRA, and someone who has shot fully automatic weapons and who owns semi-automatic weapons, let me tell you that a citizen cannot go out and purchase a fully automatic weapon. They are regulated to ban. So when you use this terminology, it is from this knowledge base that you're using to cast aspersions on our Second Amendment rights.
You don't dispute that the AR-15 was banned under the last assault weapons ban.
Excuse
me, Scottie, wait a minute.
Right. And Columbine happened, and Columbine happened after
that wasn't the question, Dana. Do you dispute that it was banned?
And Columbine happened after
Dana,
that.
you have trouble tonight answering any of my questions.
No, I'm not. I'm answering all of your questions. You not liking my answers doesn't constitute me not answering them.
You say the AR-15 is not an assault weapon. Why was it banned then under the 1994 assault weapons ban?
Because people don't like scary-looking guns. Do you realize you can get a pellet gun that looks like a military-style assault weapon?
Because Joe Biden was at the lead of it.
Let's take a break.
Joe Biden was the one.
Take a break. Come back. I'll try some more questions. Why don't we see if we can get some answers?